So yeah, Jerry, you remember how I was telling you how I have not been, again, I have not been getting sleep regularly scheduled.
Did you have it again?
Yes, this time it was people banging hammers outside of my door.
That's an oddly specific dream.
No, it was in real life.
Oh. Oh.
They were doing repairs to my house.
I thought you said they were having to do it to the other side of the house.
They did.
Oh.
I didn't know they had repairs over here as well. And it was right next to where my bed is. I wake up to like fucking... It was fun.
Damn.
Hello, and welcome to Variety is a Slice of Life, an Otaku Media podcast. As always, I'm Anthony, and joining me today is lovely Zach.
Hello.
And the wonderful Jarrett.
Salutations, Internet.
We are a bi-monthly podcast talking about games, anime, and a whole bunch of stuff. Today we're going to be talking about TRPGs, or tabletop role-playing games.
Not to be confused with Tasmanian RPGs.
Which is a whole war section that we don't need to get into, because this is not a political podcast, Jarrett. You know this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are all pretty big fans of the role-playing genre. We have multiple games going on at pretty much all times, and even after this podcast, we play a D&D campaign with some other friends of ours.
Mm-hmm.
So, suffice to say, we have a bit of expertise in this.
As other people do, considering how just TRPGs have kind of come back, especially in the last decade, at the very least.
And I mean, up until recently, they were very kind of looked down upon.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more so like cool nerd culture, because nerd culture's kind of gotten like a revamp in modern society. Now it's kind of cool to be nerdy.
Oh yeah, superheroes becoming trendy again was definitely like, I think, a big catalyst for that.
But it's led its way to a lot of interesting stuff coming out, a lot of updates for D&D and other content as well. That's been really cool, honestly.
Or just new stuff in general coming out.
So D&D being like the most popular one, I would say.
Yeah.
It gets quite a bit of attention with like you have stuff like Critical Role, and you know, there's video games and whatnot that are based off it, and it's pretty good. It definitely has its issues and its benefits.
Yeah.
Because we're on 5 point.
We're on 5e.
5.
I don't think we're on a point something.
I mean, I guess technically we would. It's just that Wizards of the Coast doesn't get that points.
Yeah. The last point we had was 3.5, and that was kind of a schism between.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even really D&D. Technically, that's a completely different game that that the fans decided to call 0.5.
Yeah.
But like D&D's changed. Like even 5e's changed so much at this point. Like it would be like it would definitely be like 5E 2.0 at this point. It's like it's changing a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I'd say it's very well warranted. Like I can already predict where it's going to be going, because we've gotten less into the we've gotten less into the physical, like, combative side, and it's more so like role playing and all that now.
That's more the what I would call the Munchkin play, where it's fight, kill, XP, get this, and a lot more is trending towards storytelling, which I like.
which was always my problem with D&D, is that D&D has like some of the best actual like combat and that I've played in a TRPG or TTRPG. It's just that the role playing in D&D has always left me much to be desired.
And that's kind of where I can see like the next couple updates are going to be going. I imagine, as long as Wizards of the Coast listens to its fans.
Yeah, with history. They're definitely writers, but they're not like they're writers for definitely a combat-based game. Like D&D does thrive off of its combat and some things off of its story. Like it's not without story, but it's. I would never say that D&D is like story focused. At least as far as mechanics and everything.
Definitely not mechanic-wise, but with the popularity of like Critical Role and stuff, and how it's becoming more of a fun role-playing game now, it's definitely seeming like that's where it's going to be heading.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that. I feel like that could be a lot of fun, and there could be a lot of fun character creation stuff if there are new mechanics introduced.
I welcome that. I came into D&D playing 4E, which like the literal tail end of 4E, because I think like a year and a half later they came out with 5E. But like playing 4E, it like that is the most number crunchy. Just like you feel like an accountant more than you feel like a player. Like I still remember that character, and I remember some moments that happened, but I just remember having to work with so many bonuses, negatives, weird modifiers for things, abilities that like were dailies, hourlies, passives, at wills, just. The journals that you keep for like cards, like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or baseball cards, like the sleeves.
Yeah.
I basically had that because all the skill things were basically like cards. I just had like a thing filled with that at like by the time we finished, quote unquote, that game. And those were all just abilities that I could just do.
You just have them all on the table and start tapping them like you're playing Magic the Gathering.
Pretty much. I think I did that. I was just like...
It's fitting because it's the same company.
I don't miss 4E.
I've heard it's pretty much either 3.5 or nothing. Like, going back in D&D is not a... I've heard nothing about 2.0 though.
I mean, 1 and 2, that's just like, if you want to, in my personal opinion, if you don't want to have a good time, you pretty much play those.
Yeah, 1...
Like, those are Munchkin to the max.
Yeah, 1 does not sound super fun.
Yeah.
Like, I've read into it because I had an idea of doing some fun shit for a campaign, and then I was like, oh, this does not sound fun at all.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like even looking at 3.5, like you can definitely see how 5e streamlined stuff so much. Like it's so much more simple. I sometimes I miss Pathfinder, so I go back to 3.5 Pathfinder, and I'm just like, man, this game is a lot more complicated.
Yeah, it was especially because it's got like tower shields and shit that D&D doesn't have, so it's like a close cousin where you're like, this almost feels normal.
Yeah, D&D is like, here's the AC of your armor and your shield is 2 AC, and then 5e is like, well, here's how much your pauldrons give you. I'm like, okay.
We've all had this conversation before, especially about 5e, but I think, well, I equate it to best example is what they did with Monster Hunter World, where they kind of reset, like they kept the main concepts, just streamlined it, made it simpler, which made it very, easy and nice for new people and returning people to get back into it and have more of a middle ground, so there wasn't a gap in experience between those, because I I came into 5e having like very little experience with D&D, and then playing with other people who had like played years of 4e, and it was nice to have some unfamiliar things, but also familiar things from both sides of that experience spectrum.
So pretty much out of our group, you've been playing the longest.
I thought about that. I was like, oh, yep, no, I've been the longest.
Yeah, because I remember when I got pretty much everyone else into D&D because of Humble Bundle, because they had like they had a Pathfinder's box set for like $20, and we just ended up getting it. And so, that's kind of where our whole thing. We played way too much right away, like multiple 12-hour games.
I miss those.
Yeah.
Dude, we had whole campaigns in one night. It was a great. Some amazing memories that like we can never replicate the weird shit we did back then.
Yeah, like arguably some of our most memorable characters that were only there for one night are like that we still talk about to this day because we love them so much.
Yeah, I still find it funny that my first RPG character ever is still in my opinion, my second most well-developed character I've ever used. Like, I don't know how I managed to make, like, that character so well-developed, like, having good character development and all that, when I had, like, I had no real actual, like, fantasy, like, role-playing experience. Like, my experience of role-playing was just, like, random things on, like, Roblox or whatever at that point in my life. Like, we started in like mid-high school.
Yeah, we started right before it got like super popular again.
Yeah, I think I started playing tail end of middle school, going into high school.
I take it back. So, the way that I got into it, which is the way that I got you guys into it, is I got invited by my stoner friend and his girlfriend. They're like, "Hey, I got a friend coming over. You want to play D&D with us?" I barely hang out with these guys, and he just messages me out of fucking nowhere. And then we ended up playing. That's where I made my one of my famous Mogar characters. And we ran like a very generic campaign. It was just a lot of fun. And then I pretty much brought that back, and I was like, "Yo, we got to do this now."
Yeah, that's like I don't know whether or not we would actually be playing RPGs and stuff if it wasn't for the combination of Anthony playing this game with some random people and Humble Bundle selling a bunch of Pathfinder sets. It was just a good combination of things. So we stuck with Pathfinder for a bit. We did until we didn't actually move to D&D proper until our friend Logan ran a thing, and he was just like, it was like, "Oh, I'm not good at Pathfinder, so I'm just gonna do 5e." And I was like, that was at least my first exposure to D&D proper, which now I haven't played Pathfinder since, and looking at it, I'm like, man, this game is complicated, which we never played Pathfinder properly anyway. We just mostly faffed our way through it. 'Cause, man, is that game complicated?
Yeah, we just I kind of got most of, because I hosted pretty much all of our campaigns up until that point, and I just kind of fudged it a little bit until, like, the story narrative was good. Which I'm a DM where it's like, my opinion is you should have fun first, and then mechanics should come into play.
Roll cool.
Yeah.
That's how I did my things as well. Just like something needs to happen. Roll a dice. And it was like, if it's a high number, something cool happens. If it's a low number, something kind of bad but funny happens. Like I was definitely not going over like using DCs and stuff. Like, like I was not a proper DM. I was just like, hey, let's just have a fun time doing dumb shit.
Honestly, I think that is a proper DM. Like, I'm not saying that rules as written DMs aren't. You're right. Everyone is their own different DM, but I'm a big prevailing person of rule of cool and, more narrative play than number crunchy beat 'em ups. Which I didn't used to be. I used to not enjoy role play. I was very number crunchy because that's how I started, especially with 4E being an accountant's game. But I have learned and grown and adapted and really enjoy actual role playing, even though I'm still not the best at it, or great, or mild. Maybe not even good, but still have a lot of fun with it, just because it's a good break.
I will say our group is very silly when it comes to this. I don't think we've ever had a very serious campaign. Even our more serious stuff still has a lot of comedy to it.
Oh yeah. Now I best describe our group as an improv group that somehow got a hold of dice.
Already too much power.
Yeah. But that is honestly the thing I love about it, because I have played both ends of the spectrum. I have played way too ultra serious games. I have played our games which can go off the rails but still have serious moments, which I think is the best. Because everything, I think, always needs a good chunk of comedy. Maybe it doesn't need it all to be comedy, but I just feel that it makes it a lot more organic.
Yeah,
just to riff off each other.
But when it comes to like I have to say before, there's a lot of really popular tabletop role playing game shows out there. Obviously the big ones like Critical Role, but then we got was it Will Wheaton had his own thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite, Adventure Zone. I like to let I see a lot of DMs, both for better and for very clearly worse, try to base their stuff too much off of Matt Mercer and stuff. But I like sort of Griffin style, where Griffin obviously takes things are very silly, but they can be heart-wrenching and sad too. It's just Griffin McElroy always has I think a perfect blend of silly comedy and actual sad moments. Just that's always been my favorite thing. It's just the perfect blend of silliness and seriousness. Things like Metal Gear is a good example.
I would argue that Adventure Time is a good example of that as well.
Yeah.
Because Adventure Time is just a straight up D&D show. I think the creators even said that. But it's... Yeah. I agree with that statement, though. I feel like if your group has a lot of fun being number crunchy, which I could tell that some groups that you've played with before, Jarrett, are very much that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. You do you. I'm definitely not one of those people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I'm definitely not one of those people anymore. I wasn't fully that person to begin with, but then it was just I moved very much away from anything like that. I'm just I'm just here to have a good time, man.
Yeah, that's definitely I tend to get bogged down by systems, so when the rare occasion that I actually get the motivation to write a story, I always try to look for a system that lets me not let the gameplay bog my story. I hate writing encounters. That's why I can never really use D&D as I can't DM a D&D game because I can't design encounters. I just write a story. That's my favorite part about it. I just can't do the gameplay part of it.
Which thankfully, there are just so many different kinds of games out there that are more narrative focused like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm so obsessed with Powered by the Apocalypse system and like all of its subsidiaries.
Oh god, yeah. I played one game in the Powered by the Apocalypse, like umbrella. It wasn't even like the main type. It was Blades in the Dark, which is like a Victorian thieves kind of thing with ghosts and stuff. I played that for one of my in-person games that I would go to, and man, that system was very, very open. It flowed well. It worked for telling a story. Like there's combat, and it's fine for that, but that's definitely not the main focus. It is very character and story centric, which is a very big plus for me.
Yeah, that's why at this point, that's all like almost all I use. Like I brought Powered by the Apocalypse to our quote unquote table multiple times. Like I've done Mass and Monster of the Week.
Both have been very fun, very different from each other.
I really enjoyed, and I love those characters more than anything. Like that's some of the funnest parts.
Oh, I know. The character building in a lot of those Powered by the Apocalypse games is just really... It's just it's very well made. Like, yeah, it's like general archetype, but then you just have like customization options that just I don't expect. Because like in Monster of the Week, which is the equivalent of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and shows of that kind, Supernatural and all that, but it's a TRPG of that. The fact that you can make the same quote unquote class of like a spell slinger, which is just someone who uses magic, and they can be completely different from each other aside from like 1 to 2 like basic things, I think is always a very good mark when you can make the same like general character as far as like career or something like that, but they can be totally different in just everything besides just the personality of it. Just mechanics wise, it can be fully different with just a small game, because like that book I think is like what, barely 120 or 130 something pages, and a good chunk of that is just classes.
And that's kind of where like a lot of RPGs falter, is that the books can be a bit big with not a whole lot of like usable substance.
Oh, I can tell you the worst offender out of any of those books. Great lore. Fantastic lore. Mechanics are garbage. 7th Sea, which is a quote-unquote pirate game set in its own world of the 7th Sea world. I played 2nd edition, but when I got the rule book, I would just say a friend had it, and I looked over it because we were going to be playing a game. And I looked through it. More than half of the book is just lore about the world, which is fine. But that's the first half of the book, and then after that it's the quote-unquote rules. But it's rules that don't... It was a weird mix of they covered too much and yet nothing at all. Like mundane situations that would happen more often than not mentioned on how any of this would go down, what would be even possible options for this, and then other things were just like had too much of a rule where it was way too specific. Other things just had like nothing. It was all over the place, and the mechanics did not make sense. Like, we still had a good time, but by the end of it, we were just like, we like the characters, we like the story, we like the setting, we hate the mechanics, though.
That's how I feel about most books. It's just like I get that there are people out there that obviously want like the world lore and the pre-done campaigns and stuff. That's never for me. I just want the way the game plays, and I always like to make my own world with it. Like, you know, like Mass had its own world and stuff, but I was just like, no, I want to make my own thing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
like I read through Mass and I couldn't even tell you what that world was. I just I read through the things I needed to, and I got everything I needed to out of it. Like I didn't need a setting. Like we just made our own games because we played one or two. We've only done one in it, and that is some of the most fun I've had. That is one of my favorite characters, and all of our characters are one of the more interesting characters that I've played or I've had the pleasure of playing with you guys. And yeah, like I don't have a problem with pre-mains, but I think pre-mains, at least for me, are much better when you're starting out and you're trying to figure out something mechanically. Other than that, I would say make your own story if you're inclined. I'm not a writer by any means, but I can make something that will work. Because having to try and fit something into a predetermined space when, you know, it's a fanciful world of you're trying to do extraordinary things in a crazy setting just seems almost counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's like 5e gives us all of these things and just kind of does nothing with them.
Yeah.
And yet restricts it too much because it's like everything like 5e is supposed to be like Forgotten Realms. But like I could not honestly tell you how many people are actually playing a hard rules Faerun Forgotten Realms game in which this stuff would actually matter. So they come up with books that have lore and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. Especially if you're making your own game where you can change absolutely everything. Like, yeah, that's cool. Tiefling is a cool thing, but like, it's
Yeah, and it's weird. Like they do certain other things. Like they came out with the D&D came out with the Ravnica book, which is a giant book where like they got a couple new classes and like not classes. They got a couple new races and maybe like a subclass or two. And then like 80% of the book is just stuff about Ravnica. But they don't have like a Ravnica campaign in it. It's just about the Ravnica world.
No, it's just I think that's a source book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just gives you information about a place. And then it's just kind of like, well, there you go. This is now a thing that you know about. I guess have fun with that.
Yeah, it's a very, very weird thing. And then I don't know. I've had good, like, we don't do it often, but we have done pre-mades, and like there are good and bad. Like I did for Tyler and Logan. I did a I DM'd like a pre-made thing for Call of Cthulhu. That was a lot of fun, actually. I did enjoy doing that.
I listened into that one. I didn't play in it, but I was just listening to it.
I forget you were there.
That was some of the funniest stuff to ever, because for context, our friend Logan very much enjoys Cthulhu stuff. So every Call of Cthulhu game he has run. But getting a chance to hear him be a player, be in our perspective, and have it just be him, his brother, and then have Zach DM. God, that was some of the funniest, like almost 2 hours I think you played. That was like some of the funniest 2 hours just to listen to. I'm just like, this is great, but still very Cthulhu-esque.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it because I got, you know, I felt like I had to put my own flair in there as well. Like I got occasionally they had to talk to people that obviously the book didn't 100% plan for, so I had to like So I at least had a little bit of my own creative flair in there. But then on the other end, as we still have haunted memories of going through the orc dungeon at D&D.
Yeah, that fucking yawning portal. That is nothing demotivated, like all of us, except for Logan. Nothing demotivated us so much as that.
So
Old I still think to this day the fact that it is an old D&D. It's not an original 5e. It's just old D&D things, and I'm gonna be honest, old D&D dungeons are not fun. They're munchkin crawls.
Yeah.
They are built to not be fun.
Let's talk about this one a bit. So Tyler has never run a campaign up to this point, and he's like, I found something I like. I want to run this, and we're like, okay. And he's
5e Yawning Portal.
Yawning Portal.
It was the first adventure, I think, in Yawning Portals too.
And he is very by the books. We learned.
Yes.
Very by the books.
And by the book of old D&D,
which is not
is dangerous and not fun.
So we make it pretty far. I think some of us are on our second characters by this point.
Maybe even third, I think.
Yeah, we had a first dungeon which 2 of us died, but we still had fun with that. That first dungeon was actually fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
The evil druids and all of that, like that was actually really cool. And the character, I didn't grow super attached to my first character, but my second character was awesome.
Your second character was the centaur sheep?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tyler kind of let us make our own races to a degree. Like he allowed some very little homebrew stuff for just characters. It's like I was a gorilla monk, which was great. Zach was a centaur sheep lady, and Jarrett was a Warforged. Yeah, you were a Warforged, and then Logan
wasn't out yet. So
Logan, our fourth friend,
centaurs weren't even out. Like,
centaurs.
Logan, our fourth friend, was like a lizard snake man who's
Wanty. Yeah,
he was just pretty much made around running away, so he lived through everything that was thrown at us just by sheerly teleporting away.
And illusions.
So we were tasked with dealing with this, or did we need to? I can't remember why we needed to go to this orc.
We had a job to go get some dwarven artifact out of what used to be a dwarven mine, now became an orc fortress. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it was on like the 3rd or 4th floor or something like that. So we had to go pretty deep.
Yeah.
And I think we tried the front door. That was a no-go. I think we tried twice, I believe.
Yeah, I think we got in the second time.
Yeah,
but...
and then we had to retreat and just cut the rope because we were like, fuck that. And then we were camping. Was I on my second character by this point? Yeah, no.
I don't remember.
Eternal died. I think I was on Richard Trilby, my bard.
No, wait. No, Eternal died when Maury died.
Yeah. So that was after we had gone in. Yeah.
So yeah, I was still on my monk then.
Because that was mine and Zach's third characters. Yep. That was
your second character died when our third characters died.
Yep. Our second one's dying when we found an alternate entrance of a ventilation shaft.
Yeah, we essentially found the orc kitchen ventilation shaft.
Yeah, Warforged at the bottom, Centaur at the top of an 80-foot shaft. Yeah, failed athletics check. Did not end well.
We're like, we'll lower her in and then just...
Yeah, so...
I lived, too. That was the thing. I lived.
Yeah, you moved.
Yeah, my character was dropped on Jarrett's character. Jarrett's character was severely wounded, and then got just finished off by orcs because there's no way he was gonna be able to escape in time. And my character died. My character died from the fall, essentially.
Oh, no. I was going to escape, Except Logan screwed me over. Because Logan didn't do what I thought he was going to do, which was he was already on the rope and he was going to go back up. But I figured he would do what he's been doing the entire game, which was Misty Step back up the rope to give me some space. I couldn't go any further because he didn't Misty Step. And he was like 10 feet up, and I couldn't go anywhere. He literally got me killed by that. Because he didn't do the thing that he's always been doing, which was Misty Step out of there. He didn't do it that one time, got me killed.
And so, that's how those two died. Eternal was still alive by this point. I don't think I went down yet.
No, you hadn't gone down.
But I remember we went to retrieve the bodies, like, way later. And then we buried those characters, like, on a hill. And, like, I had a moment where I'm like, this is sad. I, like, made a fucking grave and shit.
Yep. And then me and Zach were on to our third characters, who we spent an entire... who they died within the same session in which they got brought in.
That was
We
so
literally...
sad.
We started
No, it was the second one because the first session they were in was a filler
tryout.
session where we had an Olympic event.
You're right. I thought that all happened in the same one. I forgot that was a separate one. Yeah, they lasted all of one actual session.
Yeah, I was so hands off with that one. I don't even remember that session. I didn't do anything that session. I think I was just there playing a video game.
Yeah, no, that was... Which I'm so sad because me and Zach had spent so much time making these characters, like, join together.
When you
in
were
the
there,
story.
Anthony, you were the... Even though I think Eternal was still alive, you had that barbarian dwarf.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did have those
So
things.
I did have a character. I just forgot about him.
Yeah.
I guess he was like my... No, that's right. He was my fake backup character that I made, so that way you guys wouldn't see Richard Trilby coming, because he was introduced like earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
When I talked to Tyler about that, but... So, Zach's character, yours was what, a moth girl, like, barbarian?
I was a
Simic hybrid.
yeah, Simic hybrid, which I think at that point Ravnica had come out. So I played a Simic hybrid, which was a mutated which the lore of the character concept was a escaped a lab experiment who was like a super soldier
I think
who just wanted to be a normal person.
Yeah.
Mine was Liv, which was a tiefling divine soul sorcerer,
Yeah, you're a
who I think
sorcerer.
was being hunted by a religious order.
And it's like, we got to learn that you guys were mysterious and interesting. Never got to figure out why.
Nope. Died the very next session in probably one of the most anticlimactic fights I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
went...
Open door, get stabbed.
Yeah, we went back down the way that we came. And Mori went for... Yeah, no. Is that the character's name?
It was Mori.
Yeah, Mori
And
went
Laura.
first, and you had like a thing that prevented fall damage or something like that, just for that specifically.
I literally took, because Simic hybrid has a thing where they can fall 100 feet with no problem. So I just took that literally for that purpose, because my last character died by falling down like the 80-foot hole. So I was like, F it, I'm taking the thing that doesn't let me take fall damage up to 100 feet, and I'm just jumping down the goddamn hole.
And you did, and you were fine, and then you proceeded to get skull fucked by a bunch of orcs. Not literally, but it was...
Yeah, we don't run those kind of campaigns.
Like, dear God, that...
Yeah,
I think that was
like-
the moment where we're like, yeah, we're done with this campaign.
Yeah, we explored a little bit. Like, we got down the hole, no problem. We explored a little bit. Which also I have to clarify that I made Mori as the perfect tank. Like, she was so spec'd to be the perfect, like, barbarian D&D tank.
Yeah, because I think you were Spirit Guardian Barbarian too,
Yeah.
which had just come out. So
Yeah.
that's very much a tank barbarian.
Yeah, it was like the most like team like support tank you could make. Like I even lowered her strength a little bit so I could get her AC higher. Like she was the perfect tank. I opened a single door. I got hit by 5 javelins and almost died immediately.
And yeah,
Like, turn 1, you almost died.
Yeah, and then and then
granted,
both
Tyler.
me. You go on?
I was like, granted, Tyler rolled like a god, but that still didn't help anything.
Yeah.
I still think that was before the Orc Chieftain showed up.
God, yeah.
So I think he didn't show up for another round or two, in which he then proceeded to roll nothing but crits on us.
Yeah, so we tried to escape once again from this goddamn hellhole. Anthony's character died trying to help me escape. I couldn't escape, so I died. And then Jarrett's character, I think, got hit by a javelin escaping.
On the rope again. Yep.
Yeah.
I died on the rope again.
But don't worry, Logan was fine. He just misty stepped out.
Yep. Yeah. No. Logan was fine. He boxed and misty stepped out.
Yeah, he was in. Also, with how Tyler was running it, we were all a level below Logan, so we were significantly underpowered for this dungeon as well. Which I tried to convince him that is not a good idea, and he's like, "No, it's fine."
Yeah. We got experience for encounters, but if you died, you were at base 0 for that level. So obviously Logan had the most health, not because he fought and killed things, but because he survived every fight.
Yep.
So Logan being the coward made him the strongest.
Yep. Which, I love Logan to death. I hate Sasava. I hate Sasava with a passion. I hated cowardly running away that just kept living. Like, don't get me wrong, effective strategy in real life, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. I like concept, I like it. Having a backup plan, cool. But literally when the only person that when 80, I did the math, like, it was what, 85% of your party keeps dying?
You might
nearly
need to
every
buff 'em.
session or two? Like...
And it weren't like we were, all damage or all tank. Like, we were spread out to be
Full
a very
health.
effective team as well. Like, we had healers and rogues and shit.
Like, we made a competent team. We had a plan. We were as decked out as we could be. We just got shredded because these dungeons are not made for fun. They are made for just absolute ridiculousness.
Honestly, if we would have kept going, I probably would have picked another barbarian class and just been the fucking hitty boy. Because that's my favorite kind of class to play for just powering through something.
Our next character after that, I made literal white toast man. I made vanilla breadman.
We were all very bitter after that.
I was so angry by that.
We were like so done. Like Jared as like on purpose made a boring character. Like it's just a human paladin guy. Like he was his icon was a picture of bread.
Yeah, it was white bread. That was it. I called him Vanillaman, and he was white bread. That was it. That's all I was. And nothing against Tyler. I love Tyler, and like that one, I don't really like. 90% of that was not his fault. He made some choices that I don't think were the best.
He made
but
some
90% of that was honestly just how that dungeon was pre-written. Because I read over it after everything that happened. That dungeon is just screwy because, as I found out, it's old D&D. Old D&D is not fun.
Yeah.
Old D&D makes you hate yourself.
Yeah, we finally got to the second floor and did a little bit of the second floor, but at that point, we made it to the second floor. We made it like maybe like a quarter of the way through the second floor, but at that point,
after Vanillaman, I don't remember anything.
We were just so disillusioned. We just didn't care anymore. Like we were just like, I'm sorry, Tyler, never again.
Yeah.
No more yawning portal.
And the problem was like I made a character who was very charismatic, and so I was trying to play that character, but like I could tell the team was just broken aside from Logan.
Logan was having a grand old time. He was like, "Oh, yeah, cool."
Yeah, so that was great.
Meanwhile, while he's scheming to literally get us killed, because of course he was also a villain.
Yeah, at that point, Logan had no reason to like. Logan was like he was so proud of himself that he. But also said that he didn't get to do this betrayal thing. But it's like, who was there to even betray?
Like, You would have just been basically been betraying like a village like idiot at that point.
You were just being evil, like you weren't betraying anybody.
Yeah,
you
like
were-
literally, the people that were with him were essentially just there to help him complete his quest. He wouldn't be able to betray anybody.
We were
'Cause-
hired underlings. We were henchmen.
Yeah, we were hired by him, so
Yeah.
who is he gonna betray?
Also, I don't understand where Tyler was going with this, because Richard Trilby, my like bard that I made, was also planned to be an evil character towards the end.
You planned that, or Tyler planned
I
that?
planned that. That's where his whole character comes. He was going to become a lich.
Ah,
And like Tyler even set up shit in the future for that. And I'm curious as to like, was that just for me, or was this also for Logan's character?
My character was a spy. My last character was a spy for a king. We never really established what that was, so just like
I didn't everyone have weird shit.
don't
I was
know.
just like,
Why
I
didn't Tyler say no? Is my question.
because it's Tyler. For context, in every game in which Tyler is a player in, Tyler makes what I can only describe as off-script characters, which is he basically plays the game of what our line of yes is.
Yeah, Tyler always tries to find how much of like the line he can cross and still get away with it. One campaign I ran, he was like, he was like, can I have poisonous frog followers? I was like, sure, but you're going to have to drop your own level if you want these guys. And it's like, okay, and I was like, okay. So he had two little frog dudes with him.
He makes memes, not characters.
And then in another recent one, he played a race that has to submerge himself in water. So he had a walking bathtub with him.
At least that one is actual official D&D, not a weird homebrew thing. Which I'm still surprised about, that the Locathar are a real thing.
I mean, the Grung are official. They're just
I know.
monsters.
Yeah, like Tyler, I don't think has ever made in like I'm like, don't get me wrong, I love unique character creation, but when everything you make is a meme, I honestly think that's honestly why we can never have a serious campaign. Like, he is absolutely one of the reasons why we can never have a serious campaign. Everything he makes is a meme.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to talk about the I just remembered one. The One Piece, his One Piece character.
I'm trying to remember his One Piece character.
What was his One Piece? I don't remember his.
He was the blind
Oh.
guy who threw flashbangs.
Oh, right, he was the octopus. Okay, I forgive One Piece because we all made nonsensical things, except for Anthony. Anthony's character made sense. I was a giant green lion man because my devil fruit was mint. Logan was basically Frankie but ran off ginger ale. And then Tyler was a blind octopus man who used flashbangs.
And Alfredo, don't forget Alfredo. He was a dwarf samurai guy.
Yeah, dwarf
He actually changed his character. His first character was literally just a copy of Tyler's.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, it was another fishman. That's right.
Like their characters were almost identical.
Oh yeah, because he made a melee fish person, right?
Yeah, and that was exactly what Tyler's was as well. Yeah, so yeah, I ran a One Piece thing at some point, Tyler, and the book I was using, because it was a One Piece fan book for the D20 system. One of the things is that they give you like, you're supposed to pick like character flaws, and one of the flaws happens to be blind. So Tyler made his character blind, which raised so many problems for me as a DM because I was just like, I was like, well, obviously you have to have like, you're gonna be bad at things for being blind. Tyler used that as an excuse to just use flashbangs all the time,
which inhibited us a lot as well.
Yep.
yeah, which did more harm to the party than good. I was like, you do realize that flashbangs are gonna hurt you as well because they sound as well.
Yeah.
So we play a lot of like D&D. I'd say is our probably primary, and then secondary. I want to say Cthulhu at this point.
I don't know. Like if we
barely play. We
anymore. We used to.
Anymore.
Like yeah, like we did play a lot of Cthulhu.
Also,
But, like-
if you want to see a video of us playing a little bit of Call of Cthulhu, link in the description of a friend of ours
That is true.
YouTube channel.
That is the only bit of TRPG that we have recorded, right? Yeah, that's the only one that we have recorded to any degree.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's probably some of our more tamest.
Yeah,
Actually,
relatively.
Okay, I know I bashed Tyler, but Tyler, I will say, did have one extremely good character. Now that you bring up Call of Cthulhu, and he probably had the best character introduction ever
Oh yeah.
that I've ever experienced. Homeless Joe.
Okay, yeah, we need to set this one up a little bit. So
Yeah.
we're just running like the standard Innsmouth, like out of the book
Yes.
campaign. Which if you know that story, we're like we're at the end. Like we're at the end of the story essentially.
Yeah, we're like at the tail end of having to solve the mystery that like then everything ramps up.
Yeah, we're having to leave. We're having to leave town because I think our cover got busted or something, and the town turned on us, and so we're having to leave. This is after so much hijinks before this, anyways, which I do want to talk about some of that as well. And so, where did Tyler's character go? Do you remember?
Tyler Carter died.
Yeah,
he
where,
got hit by a
but
baseball
he
bat.
was away from us though.
No, he was with some...
He went to get the kid.
Oh yeah.
Oh, out of
Like-
jail. Yeah, that's right.
Because he went to save the guy who we were. That was our whole mission the entire time, was to save that guy.
Mhm.
But he didn't want to go without his girlfriend.
So he's on a mission. I think we were either trying to leave or do something, and we crashed our car or something, or we were trying to find a car.
We crashed our car. Yeah, we got shot at, and our car spun out.
That's right. And then just this car pulls up out of nowhere, and Tyler just says, "Quick, get in!" And it's this homeless guy that we met super early on in the campaign.
Yeah, like
Yeah, we met him like at least like once or twice, and it was just like a random guy. So we like didn't really think much about him. We just thought he was just like an
a homeless
NPC.
dude in a city. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even like he was the weirdest NPC, like because there was like a lightning rod salesman who the entire time we're like, what the heck is with this guy? What is he hiding?
Yeah.
But little did we know the homeless guy was the one we should have been worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It turns out Lightning Rod Salesman was none of our backup characters. He was possibly a chthonic god, so it was possibly that. Was it Nyarlathotep or was it?
Yeah, it was Nyarlathotep.
I think that's just a meme. I think him being Nyarlathotep is just a meme. Like, I think that guy is literally just actually there for no unexplicable reason.
I remember Logan saying something about it, but
Yeah, I think that's a
tell if
meme
he
in the
was memeing.
community.
Oh man.
Yeah. So he essentially saved our asses, and it was beautiful. Like it was such a cinematic moment.
Yeah, it was the best Deus Ex Machina that had actually been set up earlier on.
Yeah.
Man, that was done so well. That is probably Tyler's like shining moment.
If a homeless guy is introduced in Act 1, he must save the heroes in Act 3.
Yeah, an old homeless gun.
So
Jarrett loves hobo.
I do want to talk about well, I want to talk about William Byron first, who is my
Oh boy.
almost infamous terrible Call of Cthulhu character. So I made this. He's a blimp driver, and he's like in the 1920s, and it's just
It's all of them dirigibles, baby.
Yeah, he's just this horrible character, but I love him. He plays Russian roulette, and with this game, it's not like, oh, you lose, haha, you take some damage. No, if I lost Russian roulette at any point, that was it. Like, that was the end of my character.
Rules is when dead. Like,
Yeah.
point blank range, full damage, yeah.
I was constantly ready to lose this character, which is not a great... Like, I was convinced this character was going to be dead before, like, Act 3, and he made it pretty much to the end of that campaign. It got us in a lot of trouble, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So...
Multiple times.
The way I had a revolver and it had 6 chambers, so I'd roll a 6-sided dice, and our DM would say a number, and if it hit that number, I was shot in the head and I was dead. Never once did I hit that number, but we had other people definitely hit that.
Random civilians.
And so, that was the whole thing. And so we were getting the papers of something. I forget what the exact one of that was.
Oh, it's the letters of something.
Yeah. We were just getting these like fancy cursed papers, and we had to go take them to somebody to uncurse them and whatnot. And Jarrett's character lost his fucking mind and wanted a Salisbury steak and threatened to kill
No,
everybody.
I wanted a Salisbury steak.
That's right.
Salisbury steaks was my character's thing. Joe just wanted food. Because my favorite thing with any RPG character is just having them like a very specific food and being like really into that one specific food.
Salisbury steak, hardtack.
Yeah, every D&D character, it's always hardtack. 100% of the time, it's hardtack because I find hardtack absolutely hilarious for some reason. But for this character who was literally Gumshoe from Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, I based that it was just that character through and through. His thing was Salisbury steak. Every time we ate something, he would eat a Salisbury steak.
I love that. So.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about my mania into a car chase.
Yeah, it ended with me and Jarrett in a dirigible having a shootout. And then
I had snuck onto your dirigible and did the whole turned around in a chair, turned on the light thing. And then you immediately shot me in the head, and I missed.
And then I played one last game of Russian roulette, and I was convinced, like, before I said anything, I was like, this is where my character is going to die, and it's going to be by my own hand. And so after you were dead, I played one last game of Russian roulette. I lived, which was kind of disappointing. I think it would have been funny as hell if I would have died there.
What I'm sad about in that whole thing was the Phantom Tintin incident.
Yeah, I had a little Asian helper boy.
It was just Short Round from Indiana Jones.
We
Yeah,
just called him Tintin.
he's great. That was the whole fun thing. So the next campaign,
I had a whole thing about tricking him to lay me on the dirigible, and I locked him in a room. But then Anthony was like, he wasn't there, and Logan was like, oh, well, I wish you would have told me this sooner. Well, I guess I didn't have it. You're just on the dirigible now. I'm like, oh, okay. Played like 20 minutes of that.
Yeah. So the next campaign, I ended up playing that character's wife, who she started out relatively normal and just slowly went insane. Like, yeah, she was a bean canner fixer, like machine fixer, and it like ended with my character burning down a church and like it's just...
Yeah, burn down the church for no reason. Yeah, that was.
So
still love the meme that Logan literally made. Well, he didn't make, but he found a blank meme template and used that, and it was the most perfect thing.
I wish I could remember why I did that initially.
We all would like to know why you did that. You still, much like to my mania about the car and lunch, much to this day, you have not explained why you did that.
I don't remember.
I mean, I gotta say, Logan seems like he has good writing capabilities, especially with RPGs and stuff. It's just that I never like the systems that Logan picks. I hate Call of Cthulhu with a passion. I absolutely hate that game to no end. but it has some hilarious memories associated with it. But I hate the system. Like, there's almost no system I hate more than Call of Cthulhu.
I have one that I dislike. I have two that I dislike more than that. But
And then I like his writing because he's also doing Vampire for us, Vampire the Masquerade, and I like his writing. I just hate the vampire system.
yeah, that's the one I dislike more than Cthulhu. Cthulhu, once I figured it out. D100s, I get that. That's fine. Vampires, I cannot make which. Is that the game? Are we doing that or Monster of the Week? I don't remember.
Vampires tonight.
Okay. But I can't make heads or tails of that system. Like I've read it, and I don't get it.
I feel like our campaign would almost translate better going to like a mask system, but even then it would take a lot of effort.
But on the topic of systems that we don't like, but characters that we remember so fondly, there was a system I did not like to run, but you guys somehow made some of the most memorable characters I've ever had the pleasure of putting obstacles against.
Was that Titan's Grave?
Yeah, that was Titan's Grave. I ran a game because I had watched the Will Wheaton show of them playing Titan's Grave, which is like his own made-up system. And we played it. I was not particularly a fan of the system. Looking back on now, I don't think I gave it a fair shot. But anyways, these guys made some of the most interesting characters, and I had the pleasure of being part of one of the best reveals ever in one of our games. Because you can start to explain, then I'll explain some of the details that I got to know as the DM.
We all had backstories that involved like people of interest and just like miscellaneous stuff.
Yep.
This
being a sci fantasy game, so high magic and high technology. For context.
The way that the party was initially set up, it was what, 2 mages, 3 mages?
It was yes,
two rogues, 2 mages.
2 rogues, 2 mages, which there were only 3 classes, and then each of those classes had like branches of that, but the main 3 classes were warrior, rogue, and mage. So 2 mages, 2 rogues.
Which was fine. You know, we probably could have done some stuff. We didn't do a whole lot of combat, so I'm not entirely sure how strong we were.
I think you guys did fine.
But we did it. Logan was a mage with me, apparently. And he was being like super buddy-buddy, like, oh yeah, you know, we're wizards and we were doing Arcane Blast and shit. And it was fun. Then we had to go to a brewery. Brewery had like one of the vats was broken, and so it was leaking essentially just alcohol fumes. And Logan immediately fires off a blast because we were fighting some monster in there, and he explodes because of the alcohol vapors. I'm immediately terrified because I'm like, oh shit, if I use my arcane blast, I'm fucked.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, if you can't, like, I guess his magic explodes, so I use mine, I explode, my thing explodes.
The funny thing about that, so for map context, the room was filled with alcohol vapors, and guns would set off the vapors, not magic. Anthony had gone first, I think. You had used your magic and you were fine. Then Logan went and he blew up. And then that made you terrified, and I'm chuckling. Logan's whole thing was he was pretending to be a mage. He was actually a rogue. So we had a party of 3 rogues and 1 mage. But one of our rogues was pretending to be a wizard.
For some reason.
I'm trying to remember what his motivation was. I think he had actually gone to school to be a wizard, but he was no good at it. And he was trying to prove his mentor or a rival wrong. So he kept pretending to have magic, so he had a prosthetic arm that had a gun like holstered inside of the arm so that he could fire it without it being, readily noticeable. So his arcane blasts were him just shooting people.
So yeah, that was fun to learn. And so we got to, well, when we learned that was an interesting part, because that's kind of where it ended, because we showed up to a town, and they're like, hey, go in this building, and we went into that building, and what happened, Jarrett?
So I had worked with each of them, and the game likes you to have at least one secret among a character. So for Tyler's, he had someone that he had stolen their prosthetic arm from and was using. Anthony's character, I believe you had a debt?
Yeah, I had a huge debt to like the lizard mafia because I bought a new combine harvester and prosthetics with that money.
Yes, because you had been in a combine harvester accident and lost
I lost
a chunk of your limbs.
I lost an arm and an eye.
Zach was Zach's character was Dorothy, and do you want to explain Dorothy?
My character, at the time I was playing Valhalla, or more specifically VA11 Hall-A, and I based my character off of Dorothy Hayes from that game. Who, for those who've never played the game, Dorothy Hayes is a android prostitute. So I made an android prostitute character, which I didn't make it like super weird, but obviously I didn't get too in depth with flirting or whatever, but
a lot of funny sexual innuendos and stuff.
Yeah, I just tried to like fade to black my way through places. But yeah, my character's thing is that they had they had a rough relationship with a vending machine.
Yep. And Tyler's character knew your off switch.
Yeah, so the campaign ended with me getting taken over.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like the door shut in a room, all of our villains are there, and then Dorothy gets taken over, and then the campaign just kind of ends on a cliffhanger. Which
vending machine boyfriend, gnome wizard person for Logan, another lizard person with a missing arm. Sorry, it was the father of that lizard man who Tyler had taken the arm from. So it was the son of a lizard man for Tyler, and then yours was a mob debt collector thing.
Yeah, that was it's a good way to end that, but I love those characters, I want them back, but at the same time it's like their story ended in such a funny way.
I know. I just want to see like if we do use those characters again, just like if we just kind of we like allude that the craziest thing happened and we just got through it. Like we just never really talk about what happened.
Yeah. Oh god. Oh man, the reveal though of Logan not being a magic user at the very end of that session. Anthony's reaction was priceless. It was one of the best things I have ever. It's the best secret I've ever held as a DM, and it's just a wonderful memory.
It was very heartbroken.
Though at this point, I feel like it's becoming a bit trite that like almost every campaign we have, one character is like lying about something or trying to betray the others. Like it just happens all the time now, and I'm just tired of it because I don't like lying in real life. So like I don't like betrayals. Like I don't like being betrayed, and I don't like betraying.
Yeah, I've kind of, because we've done that so much, I've kind of taken a step back from that and more recent stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's just, I'd rather make an interesting character with a mysterious past more than anything now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yeah, it's D&D's TRPGs in general is a wild world of interesting shit, and I'd love to do a second one of these at some point, but maybe bring in Tyler or Logan just to help regale some stories, because we didn't even touch on like the multiverse crossover bullshit that we did, and
Opius Shroom and the Logan's Druid being on trial.
Yeah, we have a lot more stories, as does everybody, but we've been playing for a lot of years.
Fishman, the thing we will never talk about again.
Yeah. I play like I rarely. I mean, I'm in like one D&D thing, but like I rarely play D&D anymore. Like I find it fun to just find things now. Like, I think the first like non-Pathfinder D&D thing I ever played. Well, I guess Call of Cthulhu really was that. But I remember like when I first started my journey of just finding things. I just joined a random campaign of some game called Golden Sky Stories, which I'm like still really great friends with the DM that I have, and I still like whenever he does games, I still play his games. But like there was a time where I just try to find like new things all the time. One of my favorite games I wish I could really play is the Pokemon Tabletop United. That game is so fun just to make a character. Like I've never had more fun just making a character in a book than Pokemon Tabletop United. But god dang, is that game complicated.
Yeah, with how you were describing it, because your Pokemon have stats and so do you.
Yeah, so it's like battles in TRPGs already take forever, but imagine like a battle, but every character is controlling 6 other characters.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare.
It's funny that you end up finding something different. Meanwhile, I've been in the same game for 7 years, going on 8 years.
Been in that
It's the
game
same
longer than
game
our
with the
French.
same- I know. I don't know. I've been in that game almost. Oh man, I've been in that game for so long.
And it's funny because like it's a great D&D is a great example of like a good way to make friends. Like that's how I met you. You know, Logan just invited you over one day for a D&D session, and I was like, I don't know about this guy, and here we are. God knows
I
how
felt the
long
same
later.
about all of you, including Tyler, which is Logan's brother. So
Yeah. Here we are, best of friends now, having a podcast together.
yep. All thanks to Cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Oh god, I forgot about that one.
Bear traps.
Yeah. But I'm always looking for good games to play because like I said, like I constantly have the urge to write. It's just that every time I come up with something, I always bloat that thing with too many ideas until I'm sick of it and throw it away. I don't know. Like I always want to bring back masks. I feel like masks is something I never bloated, and I feel like I could do that again. Masks was always one of my favorite creations.
We will always be down to play masks.
We'll most definitely have to come up with have a second one of these at some point, probably relatively soon, so we can have more stories to tell. But
Oh yeah.
we gotta wrap it up.
Because we had to go play our TRPG.
So, anything else you guys want to say before we end this?
If you're listening to this and you enjoy TRPGs, I would honestly just say diversify your portfolio. Try multiple things. I started as just a D&D like purist, and then I found other systems and I started to have a lot of great times. So definitely go out and find different things. Find something you find interesting. Just find something different.
If you like D&D but you hate a certain aspect of it, I guarantee there is a system that just changed that aspect because some dude hated that as well and made his own system.
Yeah, there is a system for almost anything, and usually multiple of them. There are like 3 One Piece RPGs, 2 Bleach RPGs. There's a MASH RPG. I swear to God. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse one as well. If you're less like number crunchy and just like narrative things, check out the Powered by the Apocalypse things. They're less universal but more hyper focused on one genre, and usually some multiple of those books follow are like similar genres. Like there are multiple superhero ones. There's a wrestling one, a football one. It's just like if you want something super narrative focused, Powered by the Apocalypse is always a good one.
Oh yeah.
And even if you put in some work, you can customize that shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, making your own thing Powered by the Apocalypse, if you find a system that you like, is not too hard.
Yeah, Powered by the Apocalypse definitely gives you the freedom. It's just like, hey, you don't like this, just kind of do this.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. You can find links to everything in the link dump, along with our Twitters and other social medias if you feel like following us. As always, we post twice a month, so be sure to stick around for that. And be sure to join us next time. And as always, have a good day.
Is it podcast day yet?